Fighter 6.
Fighting is an art. And this is our canvas. Here, we flex our style, our passion, our creativity, our skills. We come here to break rules, to bend minds, to change the game. This is where we make an impression. This is where we make our masterpiece.
Fighter 6.
Available now.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Street Fighter 6 New Challengers Tournament announcement. I'm your host Sajam, joined by the lovely ARUUU. How are you this way?
Hello, I'm good. Hi. I'm very excited for this. Super fun to see a tournament with a bunch of creators.
Yeah, and I noticed you have a very Street Fighter-y background going on there. Do you have a favorite Street Fighter character, actually? I don't think I've asked.
I do, actually. His name is Hakan. He is my favorite.
That is the coolest answer to that question. All right, I like Hakan. That's a great answer. Well, you know, the nice thing is that myself, I'm pretty used to the streets, if you will, right? I've walked around, I've been around here a bit. And then you, like many of the people we're going to be talking about today, are coming in as kind of like, you're peeking through the bushes. You're interested from an outside perspective, right? And I'm sure you, with the launch of Street Fighter 6, you've been a little interested in the game, checking it out, watching it, dabbled a little bit.
Yeah, no, Street Fighter has always been very intimidating from an outside perspective, but I do want to learn it. I do want to see what the hype is all about, because I feel like everybody and their mother knows Street Fighter. So I'm having FOMO. I want to be part of it.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of people, which is why Capcom has been setting up some new stuff. So we have this event, right? This new Challengers Tournament. What is this tournament? What's going on here? What's everybody talking about? How do I peek in and get in there and get rid of that FOMO, right? So it's a team-based tournament that we're going to be running here with a bunch of Capcom streamers, and they're going to be paired up with Street Fighter streamers, right? So we have Street Fighter streamers as coaches, and then Capcom streamers who play different games. You know, we have all kinds of different franchises recommended here, and those streamers are going to be paired up together, battling it out to see who's going to come out on top. There's $15,000, by the way, on the line between 3 different teams fighting it out. So, you know, just to give you guys an idea about some of the Street Fighter people here, we have coaches like Justin Wong, Long Island Joe, and Kizzy K, who are, you know, very experienced. They've participated in events like this before. You know, they've done this kind of stuff. And we have this big list of players that are going to be joining them, coaching alongside of them. So for you, or someone like you who's also interested, this is going to be great, because if you've ever wanted to be, you know, into fighting games or into Street Fighter and you've never tried before, you know, they're going to be doing this coaching and all this kind of stuff on stream, so you can get like kind of a peek in, maybe follow along, kind of do your own, like painting the trees like Bob Ross on your own. You're like, oh, I can also, you know, do these moves and this stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to see, because I'm very curious to see how people are going to adapt to Street Fighter, especially if you haven't played it. I feel like it'll be interesting to see how quick people pick it up, or where they struggle in, and I think I'll have similar issues, and probably it'll help me in the future, hopefully, and then I will be a Street Fighter pro one day, maybe.
That's what I'm talking about. You'll be Evo champion up on the stage, all right, and I'll be like, and there it is, your Evolution champion. That'll be me up there. So I mean, that's the cool thing too, is that if you're someone like me, right, I'm really invested in the perspective of people like Justin or Kizzy or Joe, because they're going to be coaching and teaching new players, which is something I do a lot. And I'm sure a lot of people watching are the same way. They teach their friends. They're like, I'm kind of interested in Street Fighter, what's going on? And then there's the other side, people who are new to the genre getting in. And we have streamers from Resident Evil. By the way, these are the listed Capcom communities. Resident Evil, Monster Hunter, games that I love, and VTuber.
Yeah,
I noticed
VTubers.
that's your area of expertise more than mine.
That is.
Yeah. So I didn't realize that was a category of Capcom game, but it's news to me. That's going to be really awesome, I think. So I'm excited to see all of the teams throw down, and we're going to break down not only the format for this event, but also which teams are going to be participating, so you know who to root for in just a little bit. Alrighty, everybody, so you know that we're doing an event here. We obviously have a lot of players who are familiar with Street Fighter, some people who are new to the genre, or maybe just kind of dabbling for the first time, which is going to be really fun. Let's talk a little bit about the format, what we're going to be doing today. So it is groups. There's going to be 4 total members on each team. Players A, B, C, and D, right? 4 different people. 3 of them are going to be new to Street Fighter and playing from the Resident Evil community, playing from the Monster Hunter community, playing from the VTuber community, right? The different genres of games from Capcom. Thanks, Capcom. And obviously there's the coach, right? That's the 4th player. So the way this will be very simple, right? We're going to just be playing down the line, player A versus player A, player B versus player B, etc. And then the coaches will be playing at the end. It's going to be a first of 2 or best of 3 for each of them, and each match is worth 10 points. That is something that I think is easy peasy. The format's very straightforward. It's great because you can root for your teammates. It's not like a winner stays on kind of thing, and I'm very excited to watch it. In particular, you know, I know that you've dabbled with some other fighting games. Have you ever watched any team tournaments? Have you seen any team tournaments in the wild, Ara?
I don't think I have. I feel like this is such a unique format, especially because I feel like team tournaments are very few. And so I think it's going to be incredibly interesting because I know personally VTubers are very, very chaotic. So I'm excited to see how their team plays out.
I'm glad that you said it before. I have like a mantra, which is like VTubers, they can just like break laws or like, you know, just be extremely like degenerate and get away with anything, right? They're like the most powerful beings on the planet.
They really are.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I think the VTubers are going to be chaotic. I also think they have the perfect coach. We're going to be going over the teams in a bit, but they got paired up with the right person for the job. But yeah, what you mentioned about team tournaments is totally true. I mean, fighting games tend to be a very like one-on-one sort of genre, right? It's like you versus one other person. And I love that you mentioned that it's not a super common thing because yeah, playing team tournaments is extremely fun because you just have that like camaraderie that's normally not there, right, in the genre. So it's really fun to like cheer for your teammate and get excited and stuff. Gives you that extra incentive, and also winning for your team feels really nice.
Yeah, 100%. I'm interested to see how the teams, I wonder if we're going to see the games that they specialize in through their teams, because I know through Monster Hunter, you have to be really meticulous in what you want to build and what you want to work towards. So I wonder if we're going to see those same kind of habits with their team. Whereas I feel like Resident Evil players also are like very like, what would you say? Like, I feel like they might be more leaning towards an aggressive kind of play style, and they might like the aggressiveness. And then obviously Team VTuber is just a wonder card. I wonder what's going to happen with that.
No, yeah, I mean, it's really funny too because like I know that the Monster Hunter coach, as you mentioned, like he also plays Monster Hunter. So I think there might be some like, what do you play? You like Greatsword? All right, you want the big, like powerful character, right? Like, oh, you play like Bow or you play like something like that. You can get kind of an idea about what they play, which is funny. I know that the person who's coaching that team plays a lot of Bow in Monster Hunter, so maybe they can give some advice to someone else who plays that. But yeah, I think it's a good point that all of them will come in with different stylistic approaches, and the coaches are well suited, I think, for each of the games. The other thing that I think is interesting too is that I wonder if everybody's going to be learning the game in like a way where they're trying to play Street Fighter and they're like, yeah, I want to learn and be good at Street Fighter, or if the coaches are going to be like, all right, I'm going to teach you how to win. You know, it's there's like a difference between learning the game in the short time to try to get the W or learning for long term. And I'm very curious to see how everybody's approach differs, you know, because there's different strategies for that.
I mean, 15K is 15K, so I definitely hope everyone's playing to win.
I agree. I hope everybody's like, give me the cheesiest, simplest thing to do.
It's going to be the most toxic play styles of all.
You're going to be like, how could my streamer do this? And then they're just on the stream. Luke's just like, what's up? Just all happy. So yeah, I think it'll be really cool no matter what they do. And I think the coaches they're up for an interesting task. And I think that, you know, it's going to be a lot of fun and very silly. And I can't wait to watch. Honestly, you know, the tournament's going to be really fun to watch. I cannot wait to watch everybody learning, right? Like kind of that bonding experience of everybody playing together and the coaches and stuff. I think it's gonna be a really good time.
Well, and I especially think it's going to be very memorable for the newcomers to really see themselves improving and knowing, like, I think the way you react is like, I remember the first time I got stuck in a corner and I couldn't get out, and then I reacted properly like that. I'll always remember that. So I think a lot of memorable moments will be made during this tournament. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, one really nice thing too is that everybody's going to be streaming all of their coaching sessions and stuff. So you can tune into the coach's stream if you're more interested in Street Fighter, you want kind of a deep dive. Or you can check out anybody else's stream who's learning, any of the participants, and get kind of the perspective of the newcomer to the series. And then whenever they're training on their own or they're playing with the coaches, you can get an idea about what they're going to do. So don't only tune into the tournament, also check out the learning streams along the way. In fact, I think that's the most interesting part about this whole thing for me is all those streams beforehand where everybody's like, okay, how do I do this? What am I doing here? What's my game plan? And even if you've played fighting games before, I think it's going to be fun to watch because you get to see kind of the process of starting from the beginning and building a very simple and then effective game plan, you know?
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think this is a journey for everybody, and I think tuning into everybody's individual stories and challenges is like you get rewarded with the tournament as like the finale and seeing it all come together and then finally being able to see what they learned and how they perform. So I'm really, really excited to tune in and watch everything. I'm so very, very nervous for everybody, actually.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely that, like, I hope everybody has a good time and does well, but it's also like, yeah, I hope they pick it up. Like, you know, it's a short time to learn, and so that's going to be our format for the tournament. We're going to come back with our teams in just a second. Alrighty, so let's dig into our teams, the juicy part about this. We have 3 different teams, as we mentioned: Team Resident Evil, Team Monster Hunter, and Team VTubers, which is the chaotic team there at the end. I cannot wait to see them. But we're going to kick things off with Team Resident Evil. Obviously, a very beloved franchise for anybody who's ever basically played a video game, I think. I mean, I dressed up as Leon for Halloween, so, you know, I'm a big fan of the franchise and the series. And I know you're a Resident Evil fan as well, right?
I love Resident Evil so much.
Yeah, it's the spooky vibes of Resident Evil along with the cheesy vibes are just like the perfect thing, I think, for me. So yeah, our team looks really, really fun. So their coach is someone who is beloved. Like, he loves Resident Evil. He's huge into the franchise. It's Long Island Joe, who a lot of people are going to be familiar with. He had a really famous run back at EVO in Street Fighter V, way back in EVO 2016, right? That was like a really cool run. And then it's really nice because now, you know, now that he's not playing as much anymore as like a super serious player, he does kind of hosting, stage hosting. So he's been the host for EVO for a couple of years, which is really cool. He's been doing more things that are kind of on the creative side. So he runs an event called East Coast Throwdown, which, you know, he helps run that. It's a really, really prolific event over on the East Coast, and him along with Walter and Zach do a great job on that. And then besides that, he also did a series with Capcom where he was kind of like teaching characters, and he helped jump on there with Vicious, which was really fun to watch. So he's someone with, you know, kind of the Resident Evil background, but also he's done a lot of teaching, hosting, kind of stuff like that for fighting games. And I think he has like a really good mind for them. So, you know, in this game, I think he's been playing a lot of the cast, but I know he's been playing some Ryu, kind of like the standard World Warrior. And I'm really like interested to see his approach to coaching, because I haven't seen him coach someone who doesn't play fighting games before. So like I think he has this infectious love for the genre that's really important, you know?
Yeah, that's super, super important. Honestly, I think with the Resident Evil players, I really hope that we see some sort of like aggressive play style. I feel like, especially with Resident Evil, you can't really hesitate when you're doing something, because if you hesitate, you start over, game over, right? So we'll see what happens, but I anticipate all of them playing aggressive characters, being very, very on the offense rather than the defense for this tournament.
Yeah, and we're going to start talking about some of their teammates as well, right? So, the coach is Joe, obviously. The first player on the team we're going to talk about is Cat Link. So, Cat Link also speedruns Resident Evil 7, which is very interesting because, as you mentioned, RE is one of those games where, like, everything's fine until it's not, I feel like, right? Like, it's really, everything's cool, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, God, like, what's going on? So, you know, when you watch a speedrunner play, they're, like, never afraid. They're just like, oh, let me run through the whole game. Everything's fine. You just watch it. It's really fun to watch. But fighting games are kind of similar in the sense that everything's okay until everything gets chaotic and you're just like panicking 100%. And everybody's screaming. And yeah, I mean, you're always like, you got a game plan and all of a sudden you just like freak out. And that happens to everybody, right? Even I've been playing fighting games a long time and I have that feeling.
It's a lot of adapting on the spot.
And because of that, I'm really curious about people who like, you know, someone like Kat who plays, who does a lot of speedrunning, because you kind of have these set lines that you do over and over. So I'm curious if that's something that's going to be in the approach of how they learn. And it should be really fun to watch, I think. And then the second player on their team is Burke Black, who I've seen a few times, by the way, because I was scrolling Twitch and I was like, is that a pirate? I don't know if this has happened to you. That's how I saw the name and I was like, oh my God, that's the pirate. Which is really cool. In fact, we had a quote submitted by a lot of our players here, and the first words in the quote is "Ahoy, mateys." I'm not joking. That is the first, and it says, "Congratulations, you found Burke Black, one of the most unique and creative streamers on Twitch. Whether he's sinking his teeth into a strategy game, exploring the latest horror title, or plunging into the world of virtual reality, you can count on Burke to bring his sense of humor and charm on stream." Which is true. Every time I've tuned in, Burke has really cracked me up. I love the whole pirate theme. I think it's really cool.
That is very cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know who the pirate character is in Street Fighter. I didn't even think about it.
Is there a pirate character in Street Fighter?
In the last game, there was some pirate outfits, but I don't know if there's somebody who has pirate vibes. I'm so curious if Joe's like, all right, this character is a pirate by nature. Like, I don't know who fits that sort of playstyle. I'm really curious about that again too, because yeah, like I wonder how much of this will be Joe telling them, hey, pick whatever character you think is cool and I'll teach you, or how many of them are going to be like, okay, can you tell me a character who is I can just beat everybody up with easily?
Yeah.
I think there'll be a mix probably of the two. And the final player for the team is Deer, and she mentioned that she's the queen of all things on Twitch, all things horror, fashion, and also has an interest in fighting games, which I think is everybody, by the way.
Wow, I kind of can imagine what kind of character she's gonna play now, because you said that and immediately I have like 3 characters in my head, but there's one that particularly stands out to me that I think is going to be her character.
Yeah, I'm guessing Manon is the
Yeah,
pick
that's
for
what
me.
I was guessing too.
Yeah, I mean, because like Manon is literally like, her interests are judo and fashion, right?
Yeah,
so like
queen.
that's like it's like the perfect mix, which is really cool. And I wonder if that's who they'll end up playing too, because Joe like might even suggest that, right? Be like, what are you interested in? Who do you want to play and stuff? Which is always the fun part about fighting games, I think, like trying to guess who people are gonna play, based on their characters. So yeah, I think everybody on this team seems like they're gonna have a lot of fun, and I think they have a really like, Joe is like I think the best way to describe him is he's like a sweetheart. Like he's just like a genuinely like kind, like very like happy-go-lucky guy. So I think as a coach he's great, because you have that like emotional support of like someone who's so cheerful, and he's got like a good vibe and good energy. So this team, even though they're the horror team, they just have like good vibes, it's just like you're running through, like zombies are trying to bite you on the neck, and you're just like, what's going on? And then in the distance you hear, Leon, help, and then you're just like, everything's great, everybody's just happy-go-lucky, sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah, I'm definitely getting like party vibes from this team. I feel like, although I feel like there might not be as much pressure, because I feel like there's so much pressure when it comes to Resident Evil that you're just used to it and you adapt. So I feel like for them, it's going to be way less stressful than it would for, I feel like, normal gamers. Do you know what I mean? Because I think this team is usually used to the insane amount of pressure that they experience in Resident Evil. And I'm hoping that they'll be able to like easily adapt to that kind of pressure in fighting games as well.
Yeah, I think because horror games are they put you so on edge and they demand so much from your poor little heart. Like, I think that fighting games are going to be like, easy peasy. Like, it's just going to be a stroll in the park. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. So we'll have to see if Team Resident Evil is just taking a nice little stroll, feeling great, walking through the cemetery. They got their shotguns out, just feeling good. We'll have to see once they fight against the other teams that we have set up here.
Oh!
Banana.
Isn't she so sweet?
Want her to do the trick? Now put the hand, but yeah, there you go, Ethan. Yeah, of course.
On to our next.
So, one thing I'm interested in as far as coaching goes, and I want to get your perspective on this, Haru, is if you're being coached, right, are you trying to show up and be like, all right, I have a character, this is who I want to play, this is really cool, this is what I'm locked into, or are you going to show up like, hey, I will pick whatever you want, send me with Karate Man, send me with Oil Wrestling Man, like whoever's cool, I'm down with that. Like, what's your kind of approach?
Well, for the fighting games that I play, I always gravitate towards very cheesy, aggressive characters. And for example, if I have to play a zoner, even if this zoner is broken and like, you know, is easy to play for a lot of people, it's difficult for me because I don't play zoners. So ideally, if I wanted to like, if I was being coached, I would have to like tell this to my coach and have them pick a character that is specific for my play style. But sometimes, you know, if it's just a cute girl that I want to play, then I'm going to play her. Like, it's just, I feel like for me, what I like the most is like connecting to a character on an emotional level and then sticking to that character and seeing how I can utilize them, you know, and that's how I've always chosen my characters. It's just a character that I connect to somehow, but I have a certain play style. So if something feels good when I play them, then I would want to stick to that character. But I definitely can't do like zoners or a character with like a lot of quarter circles. Like quarter circles are very difficult for me. So we'll see. I mean, that's how I would want it. But then again, I feel like sometimes if I get frustrated, I'm like, okay, just give me the most broken character. I'm sick of this.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because, you know, the process I think is like very similar for a lot of people, which is I think it's really hard to play a character you don't like. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, 100%.
My advice for people on that note is like, if you're learning a new character, you should pick the character you think is coolest. Like, I think if you're new, right, you've never played, pick whoever that looks cool. But like, as you play more, what you said is like, I think totally true, which is you should pick the character that you think is cool and that you like their playstyle, right? Because I was teaching a few people and like, they're like, that guy looks really cool. And I was like, okay, this is Dalsum. And like, you know, once you start playing a character like Dalsum, he's hard to play, right? He's a zoner, his limbs are all over the place. You know, you get in and you beat him up. So it might not be for everybody, right? And so like, just like you mentioned, if you thought Dalsum was cool and then you get in and he's the zoner guy, it might not be vibing with you. So that I think is a great way to look at it.
100%. I mean, I wanted to play when I started Street Fighter 6, started playing it. I wanted to play, who's that old man again?
JP?
Yes, I wanted to play JP, and because he looks so cool and his moves look so flashy, but then I played him and I was so confused. So now I main Kimberly because she fits my style much better.
Good choice. Yeah, I mean, I think Kimberly is really, she's like one of the coolest characters.
Yeah, she's
like,
so
her
cool.
Design is so cool. And like the thing is too is that what's it called? JP, even though he's a really good character and he's really cool looking, like I love his wind pose where he steps over you with the foot. Yeah, he's not easy to play. Like as you mentioned, he's not a straightforward character, even for experienced fighting game people. So if you're new, that's kind of a tough ask. And Kimberly, I think she like flows better. She feels nice to play.
Yeah,
and, like,
and she's more my personality for sure. So I like Kimberly. I connect to her on like another level with Kimberly. I love her a lot. Yeah,
she's so cool. And that's what I love too, is like in this game, the 3 new characters who are like the new faces, they have their own like Ryu, Ken, and Chun, which is like Jamie, Luke, and Kimberly, right? And I think they really nailed all the designs. Kimberly is super fun. I think she's a super fun character, yeah. So that's a good way to approach characters, I think. Alrighty, so our next team here, we have Team Monster Hunter, coached by none other than Justin Wong. So a lot of people know him on the fighting game side. He's very famous. He's involved with Evo moment number 37, of course, the very famous moment of him losing to Daigo with the parry. Just let it go, Justin! The parry. If you haven't seen Evo moment 37, gotta watch it. It's very famous. I feel like everybody has seen it. He is an incredibly decorated fighting game player, one of the greatest fighting game players that the world has ever produced. Extremely talented, now turned into content creator. He's a father, he's got a family, you know, he's been doing that kind of stuff, so he's been doing a lot of coaching lately. He is currently the #1 random select player. I think in the first MR rate, that's true. He was #1 with random select in this game, so he has learned every character in this game on classic and modern, so he knows how to play everybody, which is very impressive, of course. Yeah, he's really experienced. And he calls himself a casual tryhard. Which is a really funny way to describe yourself when you're like a former pro turned into like a content creator. You know, casual tryhard is really good. I like that. And yeah, he played a lot of Monster Hunter. So he hadn't ever played the game, I think. And then Rise came out and it was like, you know, just like that time where everybody was stuck inside and he was just like, all right, cool. And he grinded Rise an absurd amount. So he played tons of Rise and then tons of Sunbreak. And I think he went back to World as well. If I remember right, he was like tweeting about farming gold and silver, Wrath and Rathalos and Rathian. So I think he also played some World. And yeah, he likes Monster Hunter, and he's played a lot of the weapons in that game, so I think he'll be very experienced to help his team out. And I'm curious, have you dabbled with Monster Hunter? Are you a Monster Hunter gamer?
So I have a very deep love for Monster Hunter World. It was my first Monster Hunter. I played the Insect Glaive, so I was
nice.
a lot of times I was support for whoever I was playing with. But I definitely think Monster Hunter World is like one of the best games I've ever played, and I'm so curious, like you said, like if Justin is going to go about this by asking, the team, like, well, what weapon do you like the most? Like, what weapons are you comfortable with? And then try to give them a character that they can easily adapt to, at least on paper, and then see how it goes. I think that's going to be such an interesting conversation and a specific way to try to help out his team.
Yeah, exactly. That is, and then there's like terms that carry over between fighting games and Monster Hunter also. So I think that might be a nice, like certain moves have like armor or like guard points in Monster Hunter.
Oh yeah, that's right. So
that idea, I think that might even help. I mean, even the Insect Glaive has like a double jump in the air, kind of. So there's like stuff like that in the game that you might be able to use, which is cool. I think that there's like some nice crossover. So his first person that he's going to be coaching is Bok Basuf, which I hope I'm pronouncing that right, who is a professional chef for 10 years, a decade of being a pro chef, and now as a streamer. I have to say, I gotta check out this stream because I love watching cooking streams, if they ever do any cooking streams on stream. But also says they like to play a lot of horror games, interested in fighting games, and hasn't really played them since they were a kid. And this is their first time, they think, ever streaming a fighting game, which is cool. That makes me happy. I always love it when you have stuff like this and it's like their first time playing the game,
Yeah, no, especially I feel like playing fighting games when you're a kid is like such a common thing, and so going back to it, I'm sure will be a fun experience. That's so interesting. I wonder how, like, I'm so curious to see how his mind works. I definitely want to check out his stream because I want to see what his commentary is when he's learning and what's going through his head.
Yeah, I'm definitely very curious for sure, because that's like an interesting background of collective skills, like cooking and speedrunning and playing games like horror games and Monster Hunter, like all this stuff, right? It's so interesting. And our next player is SD Shepard, who's an old-time Monster Hunter YouTuber who is the 2018 North American Monster Hunter World Champion and then the runner-up in 2020, who says, I love Street Fighter 3 Third Strike as a kid, which is really cool. So somebody who's played some Third Strike, right? Played some fighting games before. Street Fighter 3 is a pretty old game at this point, right? So it's been around for a while. So someone who's dabbled. And if you have like a background like that where you played a fighting game a while ago, I think it's really easy to transform that into the modern era, right? Like it's like, oh, you used to play, like, okay, I can get you caught up to speed.
Yeah, 100%. It's muscle memory at some point. So once you start, it slowly starts coming back and be like, oh wait, okay, I kind of remember what I'm supposed to be doing here. So I think overall they'll be quick to adapt, but we'll just have to see, honestly. Maybe they just don't remember anything and it doesn't come back. And who knows at this point.
So yeah, it might be like that. And the third and final teammate on this team is the Asian Avenger, who described themselves as the most mediocre mage you'll ever watch. That is quite the description. And it says they like TCGs and horror games, which is cool. Big fan of Raccoon City, they say, which is a dangerous place to travel. I gotta admit, I don't think it's a good place to go this time of year. And that's, I think, a pretty nice, well-rounded team there. They like horror games. They like Monster Hunter. They like Resident Evil, speedrunning, cooking. It's like an interesting combination of skills and backgrounds together as a trio.
Well, and I especially feel like with Monster Hunter, at least with Monster Hunter World, what I experienced is like with Monster Hunter, you're slowly chipping away at your enemy, which is like a big monster, and you have to have a certain strategy. You can't just go in and immediately just start hack and slashing, So I'm very, very curious to see how this team adapts. Like, for sure, I think they're going to have a strategy, and I think they're going to be playing more defensively because, again, with Monster Hunter, it's all about chipping away, and then doing big damage and closing it off. So I'm very, very curious to see how they're going to plan it, what characters they're going to choose, and it's so interesting. I really can't wait to check out their streams because it's such an interesting crossover, I feel.
Yeah, and like what characters they play versus what they like playing in Monster Hunter and stuff is going to be really interesting. You're going to be like, which character has a dodge roll? And I'm like, gotta look for that. But yeah, it's really cool. I think that the team balance should be fun. And they have a very experienced coach, not only as a competitor, but as someone he's done a lot of coaching of new players, right? This is somebody who has lots of experience in this, where Joe has like that great like kind of gusto and personality that's so lovable. Justin is, on the other hand, has the experience of a coach, right? He's done this a lot in his life. So even if he doesn't have that same Li Joe lovable nature, which Justin's also very nice and very fun to talk to, but like he doesn't have that same nature, he has so much experience as a coach, and he's really easy to like talk with and like learn fighting games. He can explain it in so many different ways. So this team is, I think, set up for success, and I'm very curious to see how they do.
Yeah.
Oh, let's go!
All right, so I got a story that I want to go through.
I thought it was him just talking to the hive mind because he was in the freaking thing. But no, it's because he's dead.
I'm still hunting monsters. I'm having a great time.
Knowing how to cook goes a long way.
Alrighty, so our final team of the day, the wild card team, Team VTuber. I think we're both very excited to see the VTubers go because, as you mentioned earlier, this is just chaos incarnate.
Yeah, for sure. And like, because the VTubing community is so tightly knit, I wouldn't be surprised if these team members are already friends or have talked to each other before. And I'm sure the thing with VTubers is that they are inherently chaotic. And so they actually, I feel like they bounce off of each other's chaoticness all the time. So I definitely think Kizzy, and I don't think he's way over his head, but I definitely think he has his work cut out for him.
Yeah, and their coach Kizzy K, as you mentioned, is someone who he has experience with VTubers, okay?
Yeah.
He has a background playing anime games and anime fighting games and stuff. Obviously very experienced in Street Fighter as well. And he plays this game a lot. He plays DJ in this game, and he's been playing with a lot of the characters in the game. He's very experienced at coaching and stuff. He actually participated in an event that we did together where we were playing chess. And it was like fighting game people and like anime people. And he played against Ollie, a very famous VTuber, in that match. And that was the first time I ever saw him interact with a VTuber. And it was like one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
I think he has like a really funny, good personality to match the chaos of the VTubers. So I think together, like by their forces combined, they're either going to be the greatest team as champions or the greatest teams as like Xspirit. You know, like they're just like energy.
100%.
It's going to be so good. But I know, as like a huge DMC fan. So besides playing Street Fighter, I think DMC is like the game that he plays the most. And
the most anime one for sure.
Yeah. Actually, now that you mention it, it kind of is the most anime game. It is funny too because when I went into the Capcom office, they have the Red Queen just like on the wall there.
Oh, that's so cool.
And it's like right in the front, and there was no one there. And I was kind of like looking around. I was like, you think if I just yoinked the Red Queen off the wall, as anybody at Capcom would notice? Me and Kizzy were talking about it. He's like, I don't know, bro. I think we could do it. He's like, I'll hold him back. You run. So Capcom,
surely that's a joke.
Yeah. Yeah. If it's missing, it wasn't me. And, I just want to chat about the team. So the first member of the team is Kettle Toro, who describes himself as a Pepega Fox VTuber with 2 working brain cells.
Wow. What a good description.
Yeah, and their quote, it gets better. Their quote is professional gotcha gamer with 2 brain cells and a dream. I know it's just the 2 brain cells rubbing together is the key here.
2 brain cells and a dream. Well, yeah, I mean, I support it. I feel like, okay, this is just what I think. I think Kettle Toro is going to be really lax about this. You know? I think they're going to be like, you know what? I pick a character and I have a dream, and if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I'm here to have fun. I'm here to cause some chaos. You know, so it's going to be so interesting to watch Kettle's stream and see whether they're joking around and having the best time of their life, or if they're I can't imagine them being super, super serious.
Yeah, and I think that's the most dangerous opponent, because that's the kind of opponent that will beat you. Yeah, and like there's a lot of ways for someone who likes playing like this, fighting games are like a dream, because playing like a degenerate in fighting games is really good. And it's something that everybody who plays fighting games got a little bit of savagery in them. They got that a little bit of you call it 2 brain cells in a dream, you want to call it unga bunga, you want to call it just there's a lot of ways to describe it, right? So I think that is a beautiful shape to mold into a fighting game menace.
100%. I think Kettle's the type of person to be like, well, if they're not reacting to it, I'm going to keep doing it. So it'll be interesting to see what they learn and what they cheese.
Yeah, that's to me, that's got like modern Lily energy or something. I hope that that's the pick or something like that. And the second player on the team is Huntress, who says, I've always loved to play video games ever since I was 5. Most of my time gaming has been in action games, JRPGs, fighting games, and FPS. And the quote is Green Gremlin learning Chun-Li.
Well, we know whose Huntress character is going to be, which is really, really interesting to see, because I wonder if Kizzy's already like in the lab with Chun-Li saying like, what can I have Huntress adapt to that's easy to adapt to right now? Like, what are the great things that I can teach, and what are the things that they're going to struggle with? So I think that's a great way to already have her character picked. So
yeah, and I mean, Chun is like, I feel like everybody who plays Street Fighter knows a little bit about playing Chun-Li. Like, she's one of those characters where I'm sure Kizzy, even if he's never played Chun-Li, could be like, okay, I know how to play some Chun-Li. That was definitely my experience playing the whole cast. I mean, I have the Chun-Li shirt today. I forgot about that. But yeah, like, I mean, she's one of those characters that she's been in the game for a long time. Very common character, really fun, and I think really strong in this game, and like super fun. She's a really cool character, so I think that'll be no problem. The two of them will link up on that, and Chun-Li, easy peasy, lockdown. They'll have a lot of fun learning that character. And the final member for the team is Fleshy, who says, an artist who also draws on stream. That's their description, which is, I feel like a lot of YouTubers like to draw. I feel like that there's like a nice connection there. And they say that they like to play story-based games and horror games like Resident Evil, which makes sense. I notice almost everybody, especially the VTubers, but like almost everybody has said Resident Evil so far. I feel like it's like a universally loved background. I feel like every VTuber likes playing scary games too.
For sure. No, I feel like the thing with VTubers is that like they will play the big titles, but at the same time they'll just play games that you've never even heard of. I feel like they are like everywhere. They don't shy away from trying new things at all. If like something comes out and nobody's ever heard of it, they're down to try it. And I feel like this will probably translate in Street Fighter, and they'll just pick a character that's really nobody even recommended, and they're like, you know what, this is the character I want to learn. Or they'll try things that people didn't even know of, because this with VTubers, they have so much personality and so much chaos and so much like this need to just be there, party, and have fun. I genuinely am so curious to see what the dynamics are going to be, you know, and I'm sure Kizzy will have fun, but like even with Kizzy, like Kizzy has a very like big brother energy, because whenever I've been at a tournament, like Kizzy's always been like, are you okay? Like, can I get you something? Like, how are you doing? Is anyone making you uncomfortable? He's very big brother. So I feel like that's going to translate here, where he's going to have to be the big brother and be like, okay guys, like now we got to focus, like calm down, like let's try to focus on this. So I'm very curious to watch their streams and watch Kizzy's stream and see what his commentary is on each individual competitor here.
Yeah, I think that's a great description of Kizzy. He's definitely got that vibe. And I think it's going to be like the little gremlins running around like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Kizzy's going to be like, all right, everybody, reel it in. Like it's real like field trip energy, right? Where like he's going to be running around like, guys, everybody come this way. And then like they're just going to be running around going nuts. So this team is going to be a dream. I don't even like, this team could win every match or no match. And I think it'll be like a blast. Like
they very much are wild cards for sure.
Yeah, and I can't wait to watch them play, so I wish the best of luck to Team VTuber and all our teams here on this event. It should be a lot of fun, I think, for everybody involved, and I can't wait to watch.
Oh my god, I just died internally the moment I said it. Look at it. Is everything okay?
I have tail? A new tail?
Alrighty, so there you have it, our 3 teams locked and loaded. It's going to be a good time, I think. A lot of fun, a lot of energy, and a lot of goofiness involved in the seriousness. So I'm kind of curious, you know, you see this, right? You've talked a little bit about some of the games so far, the genres, if you will, right? We have the very important genre of VTuber, and then also of Resident Evil and Monster Hunter. So do you have any thoughts on, like, just, you know, the backgrounds of the games or the collective consciousness of the VTubers about what you think might lend them to some advantages here?
Well, I think in the next 2 weeks, as the streams progress and we get to see the POV of all the competitors and all the coaches, I definitely think that at least what I predict is going to happen is, like I said, I think Team Resident Evil is going to be very aggressive. They're going to be training, and most of them are going to be want to be on the offensive, right? They're going to be putting the pressure on the opposing players. And then I feel with Monster Hunter, just based off how the game is and what I experienced when playing it, is like going to be like they're going to be more on the defensive. They're going to have a strategy. Either it's going to be chipping away at their opponent or just tiring them out or confusing them, right? I feel like they're going to be more on the analytical side of things, whereas like Team Resident Evil will be on the side of like, I'm just going to go in and do what I need to do and do what feels right. Whereas like, then you have Team VTubers, that's just a wild card. I genuinely think that their MO is going to be like, yeah, like this is cool and this is fun. I'm just gonna start pressing buttons and seeing what happens, you know? And then I think they will have their light bulb moments. Like when they're in the moment, I'm sure things will just start clicking. But I feel like Team VTuber is there to have a good time and then just, I don't know, make things as chaotic as possible.
The VTubers are like savants. Like they just appear and for some reason they're just like, they just get it. It just makes sense. And it's been really fun to watch a lot of people learn Street Fighter through that as well. So I think this will be kind of the same way, where I expect that, you know, if I had to think about someone who has an advantage in terms of the coaches, I think Justin is probably the person who has the most coaching experience, right? And he's a really strong player. But in terms of like the team backgrounds, VTubers, there's something about them that just makes their chaotic energy, when they bring it into a fight, it's just, they just start scrapping, which I think is going to make me think that they maybe, the players anyway, might have an advantage in that regard. So I think that's the team that I'm looking at as like, this might be the team that's going to beat everybody up, just because it's the wild card, and I think that energy is good for this kind of thing, you know.
I'm leaning more towards Team Resident Evil. As a fellow like aggressive player, I feel like when you're aggressive, it gives you a very, very big advantage sometimes. Obviously, it gives you a big disadvantage sometimes, but I feel like my aggressiveness pays off more than it hurts me. So I'm rooting for Team Resident Evil players just because I'm thinking that they're going to be aggressive, you know, and I support the aggressiveness.
I like that. Yeah, I mean, that's how it is. Or you kick open the door, someone's got a chainsaw, you start shotgunning them, like you're just going nuts, right? It's just that kind of a game. So yeah, I like that. And I think all the teams should be really, really fun to watch. Not only they're learning, but them playing against each other, competing in a tournament. One thing that's really cool about this, I think, is that there's a nice bridge being built here, both for the creators who are getting into this, but also you, the viewer, who's watching all these streams and getting interested. If you're somebody who watches fighting games, and you know, 90% of people who watch fighting games are not playing it all the time, right? They're kind of observers from the outside. If you're interested in getting involved in the community in any way, this is a great way to do it. I'm sure a lot of people who watch this will play in this and then participate, right? And their streamer will play in this, and then they'll get interested in Street Fighter, and then they'll be like, well, maybe I'll watch Capcom Cup this year, right? Or maybe I'll watch EVO or some big event that's going to be happening for the game. And, you know, getting in people involved like that is really cool. A lot of the players that play in this are now watching like competitive Street Fighter, and they're more interested in it, right? Or they're checking out and playing the game more often, which is a really nice kind of feeling. And I feel like there's a bridge being, you know, built here between people who maybe don't play fighting games so much, or are kind of interested but they're scared to jump in, and then people who can now like come across it and be involved in the fighting game community, you know.
Yeah, I definitely think, like I said, like you know how like VTubers are very tight-knit community. I feel like FGC is like very similar in that aspect, where like FGC is very, very tight-knit. A lot of like the Street Fighter players that I've become very close friends with, I don't know how it happened because I never even played Street Fighter, you know? So, but because it's so tight-knit, I feel like even there's crossover with Street Fighter with like every other fighting game. And so everybody has their own respective communities, but FGC as a whole is like, when you go to these tournaments, like it's not just one game that you're experiencing, it's all fighting games, and all those communities are very close to each other. And so I do like, especially like with Street Fighter, it's like when I'm like playing a game and I hear them screaming at the top of their lungs because something happened, I definitely get like FOMO. I want to like go there and see what's going on and understand what's happening, you know? Even if I don't play Street Fighter, I would want to understand it just so I can be part of like that hype and that kind of energy, because the energy brought to these tournaments are like some like I've never seen before. And I feel like that's what makes these tournaments so fun, is because there's just such raw emotion and raw hype and like all these very close moments. Like you were talking about the Evo moment with Jay Wong, like it's such an iconic thing. And like to be part of these moments and to be part of these experiences, I think it's really important to show why like FGC is as hype as they are. And I think I wish I could show that to newcomers, you know, and show them like how passionate this community is.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those things that you mentioned that's really cool, is that the community is like really excited, and like once you're in, they just want you to be a part of it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
Which is a really nice feeling. And a lot of people, you know, I've done a bunch of events where like streamers are learning Street Fighter for the first time. It's been really common since Street Fighter 6 has been such a big hit, and so many streamers have been interested in it. And all of them are like, when can I come to an event? Like, is there like an event I can come to? Is there something I can come to? I want to check this out in person. So like, it must be 15 or 20 streamers who are not known for fighting games have been like, hey man, I really want to come to Capcom Cup. Like, I'm really interested in coming to Capcom Cup, which is really cool, you know. And I'm sure some of the people who play in this, you know, Capcom will be like, hey, did you have fun playing in that? You want to come on down to some Capcom Cup? So, you know, I hope a lot of people are interested and maybe check out some more events and stuff like that. And, you know, the thing about fighting games is you don't have to be super serious tournament player to be in the fighting game community, right? You can just think the games are cool. You don't even have to play them. You can just watch and enjoy fighting games, and you're part of the fighting game community, right?
I'm very fortunate to have experienced that firsthand. You know, I'm not a professional in any sense, but, you know, FGC has been very, very welcoming to me, and I play for fun, and I love fighting games, and I'll always love fighting games, and I'm very, like, happy to have met people that are just like, oh yeah, like, as long as you're having fun and you love the game, like, the more the merrier, you know? So great energy, great vibes.
Yeah, and like that's kind of always been my thing too, is like, listen, I commentate the highest level of play, right? So if I can watch the highest level of play and my job is to be Mr. like, you know, analyst with like the glasses and stuff up there, like, well, he did this, this, and this. I'm telling people, like, hey, if you think fighting games are neat, you don't even have to play them. You can think fighting games are cool, you're cool with me. So, you know, hop on in, check out the fighting game community. We're happy to have you. If you have any questions about events or things happening, or you just want to watch, you know, check out any of the streamers or the coaches, myself, ARUUU, anybody who's involved, they can probably help you get your foot in the door.
So I think a really good thing with this event is that, I mean, personally for me, like, fighting games have always been really intimidating, especially because there's so much to learn, so much to memorize, so many characters to, because like it's not just knowing how to play your character, it's knowing the character you're fighting up against too. You know, you need to know what you can counter, what's plus on block, I didn't even know what like plus meant. So learning all these terms, it's very, very intimidating. There's a lot of information, and I feel like a lot of people who grew up with fighting games slowly like took this information little by little by little by little because they grew up with it. So it was a little bit at a time, whereas like if you're a new player coming in, it's like all this being thrown at you at once is like so overwhelming. And I think just having, you know, like for example, like the coaches that have been chosen are just incredible people, and so they're like just knowing someone's there and willing to help and be patient and be like welcoming, I think goes a long way, you know, especially because like if there are people that are like, oh, that's great, like this is what you can do, and teaching you little by little by little and not completely overwhelming you or like stressing you out, I feel like that's such a big thing, you know, for people who are new. Because I remember the first time I started like really trying to learn fighting games, like I was so overwhelmed, and I feel like the people that sat down and were patient with me and taught me what to do really went a long way. And now I know exactly, you know, what's plus on block and all these terms. So I think especially as like new players, I think it's really, really important that, you know, you are welcome to get into Street Fighter, especially because there's like things like modern controls now, you know, where it's like you don't have to do like the quarter circles. I don't even half circles, like I struggle with. So I feel like those things are like, with modern controls, it's a lot easier. And I think you know like more about the in-depth stuff with modern controls and whatnot.
Right, and to your point, like, you know, when you first start playing Monster Hunter as an example, you see this big scary green dragon. You're like, oh my god, what do I do? It shoots fire, it's doing all this. And then once you fought it like 5, 10, 15 times, you're like, oh, he's going in the air, like he's gonna do the tail swipe,
exactly.
Right? So like, I'm gonna just stand here, parry this, hit this, cut the tail, yoink, carve that real quick, go over here, do this. Or you play Resident Evil and you're like, oh my god, I'm in this police station, everything's so scary. The third time you walk in, you're like, boom, walk in, grab this item, I know the code for this lock already, I don't have to look it up, go here, grab this, Leon. Like, you're just chilling, right?
Yeah.
Fighting games are the same way, where like the first few times you play them, they're so scary and they're so intimidating, but there's lots of skills that transfer over and carry over and stuff. And the great thing about this game is that they've really done a lot to break that barrier of beginning, right? And I think that's the hard part for a lot of people, is jumping in and getting in there and being like, oh god, I don't know what's happening. And modern controls, if people don't know what they are, they're basically the input designed for you, the new player, right? And they make doing all the inputs for the specials easier. They make doing all of the like kind of supers and things that are normally more difficult to do on reaction easier. It makes playing the game just a lot more straightforward and gives you access to the things that your character wants to do much faster, right? And the great thing about modern is that you can learn modern and play modern the whole time you play the game. You can play it as a new player, you can play it as an experienced player, you can play it as a player in the highest levels of play. EVO, which is the biggest fighting game tournament, right, that has Street Fighter this year. Somebody who's been playing fighting games for 30 years, who's a god of Japanese fighting games, played Modern and made top 6 at the event, right? He made it really far.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's something that you can play with, whether you're brand new, something you can play with at the highest level of play, whether you want to try to win the millions of dollars in Capcom Cup, right? So for this event, I expect a lot of players to play on Modern, and that's like a super viable way to play. In fact, it's probably stronger when you're newer to the game, which is really nice. And if later on you want to switch it up and try Classic, you can. If you want to play Modern the whole time, you can as well. A lot of the people that I've been coaching and teaching Street Fighter have started on Modern. Some of them have started on Classic, but a lot of them have started on Modern. And, you know, learning what you can or can't do in the mode and learning how to execute everything in play has been a really fun experience. And it helps them get past the initial part of the game where I'm like, okay, you need to input this input. You have to hit forward, then you have to hit this, then you have to hit that. And then now I'm just like, hit forward plus special. And they just like do the move and they're like, yeah. And I'm like, all right, cool. So it's been really nice. And I think it gives a nice ease of access. And it helps me too, because I learn Modern so that I can help them learn, because I know how to play the character on Classic, so then I have to learn the character on Modern, and the differences between them really help me as well, as someone who, you know, watches and plays the game for thousands and thousands of hours. So it's a really nice like experience back and forth. And even the coaches, I know that they have dabbled with Modern a bit as well. Like Justin has played the whole cast on Modern as an example. So, you know, there's lots of clips of him beating up players with Modern controls, and he's really experienced with it. So they've done a really good job in this game, I think, of building a system that helps new players, but also can kind of break you into fighting games and get used to the whole system and stuff, and then play them long term.
Yeah, I mean, even just hearing you talk about it, like I had no idea that it was like that in depth. So just hearing you talk about it, I think it makes the newcomers a little bit more comfortable and confident using Modern controls.
Yeah, and that's the goal. It's very clear Capcom designed it for that, and they did a great job. I think people love it, and it's one of those systems that, like, now that it's in the game, it's hard to imagine Street Fighter without it. It's like one of those things where you're just like, oh yeah, like this is a thing that everybody has access to, and it's really useful for all these new players picking up the game, and I think people really like it. Alrighty, so there you have it. Those are our teams. That's the format. That's the plan of attack. We're going to do a little recap covering everything in case you miss any of the stuff that's happening on our Street Fighter 6 New Challengers Tournament, which is a team tournament that's going to be really fun. We have 3 different teams throwing hands here in Street Fighter 6 with a coach and then 3 players per team, right? So 4 total. They're going to be playing against each other. It's going to be the first person, second person, third person, fourth person, which is the coach on all the teams throwing hands. We'll have a special 5th match, which will be the coach versus one of the players that they select to go up there and try to battle against the other team's coach for some bonus points, which should be a lot of fun. And we're pulling from all the different Capcom communities, right? Which is my favorite thing. It's the Resident Evil community, the Monster Hunter community, and the VTuber community. Should be a lot of fun. A very nice mixed bag of players participating with their coaches, of course. Long Island Joe is coaching the Resident Evil team. Justin Wong is coaching the Monster Hunter team, and Kizzy K, who is coaching the VTubers, wrangling the gang together to get together to play some Street Fighter, which should be a lot of fun. There's $15,000 on the line for the teams here, which is really cool, I think. I can't wait to see that. Some prize money, incentivize everybody to battle it out. And things are going to be kicking off the week of November 6th. So everybody's going to be streaming their practice and everything like that. So you can watch on the coaches' streams. You can watch on any of the player streams as well. And I think that's going to be, maybe the most exciting part for everybody.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Seeing the players' perspectives and then the coaches' perspectives, I think it's going to be a great finale with the tournament to see how that all comes together.
Yeah, and then the next week, the week of the 13th, is when things are getting kind of locked and loaded, right? They're going to be maybe finalizing some strategies and getting some feedback from all their coaches and stuff, and like kind of coming together and doing this. So there's going to be a lot of collabs during that time. In the week of the 6th is like kind of the figuring things out. We're new here. Then the 13th is sort of like, all right, we're all learned a little bit. We need to develop and kind of refine our strategies, get in there, go punch them in the head, figure out what you need to do. And the cool thing is that all of the practice streams and everything will be streamed on all of the coaches' channels, all of the creators' channels, right? So if you tune into the Street Fighter category, you will see it, right? Anywhere you check in, you'll find them playing. So if you just look, I'm sure you can see in the title of any of their streams. And if you're somebody who's interested in the genre, right, at all, whether you're somebody who's new and learning, maybe go to the coaches stream and say, hey, I'm here, I want to learn the game or whatever. And if you're somebody who is experienced in the genre, go to the new player streams and say, hey, what do you need help with? You're learning, and then give them some friendly advice and help them learn along the way.
Yeah, especially supporting the team you want to win goes a long way, I feel, because not only are you giving them that like morale, but you'll be letting them know like for showing up for your Capcom game, whether it's Resident Evil, whether it's Monster Hunter, or whether, you know, it's category VTubers.
Which is, I think, really cool. That's a great call out too. Like, let's say you're a fan, you're like, you know, favorite streamers on the Monster Hunter team, right? If somebody who's on the team that is not your streamer is live, go help them out, right? Go root for them, go cheer for them, because, you know, you need them to win so that your streamer can win, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah, just go and follow all the streamers of your different teams. So if your favorite streamer is on Team VTubers, follow the VTubers, or maybe follow everybody involved, right? It would be really cool to do that. You can probably get a nice list of everybody after this is over. And I think support everybody, give everybody some love. I can't wait. I'm going to be popping in there, probably asking. I'm going to go bother the coaches and be like, what are you going to do? What are you, how are you gonna
exactly.
help them? And then I'm also going to pop in probably to some of the streams and help people out, maybe give them some advice if they want, and try to just, you know, spread some love and be like, hey, what, you're learning this character? How's it going? Are you feeling good? You know, just ask some questions. But if you guys are interested in any of this, of course, it's going to be happening the week of November 6th, then also the week of November 13th. So these 2 weeks we have kind of, you know, the learning, coaching, teaching sessions, and then everything is culminating, of course, to the tournament we're going to be having on November 18th. All right, so mark that on your calendars. It's going to be beginning at 4 p.m. Pacific. So, you know, check your time zone, make sure that everything's locked and loaded, and you know when it's going to be live your time. If you miss it, of course, check out the VODs and make sure that you support however you can. It's going to be on twitch.tv/Capcom USA. It'll be also on YouTube and other pages if you're interested in that. And, you know, it'll be on Capcom Fighters. It'll be on, I'm sure, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, you know, wherever you want to watch this, you can probably find the action. So it'll be everywhere. Just check the category out. Check Capcom USA on Twitter, Twitch, all those different places. Make sure that you take a look. So if that's the plan of attack for you, mark everything down, follow everything, follow all your favorite streamers. They'll be live when it's happening as well. So, you know, you can always just check in there to make sure you don't miss anything. And then you and I will be there chit-chatting, hanging out, making sure that everybody does well, doing some commentary over the action, which would be a blast. I can't wait to check that out. So any final thoughts before we head out of here?
I have my well, I was just thinking, it's especially like, even if there's not streamers that you know competing, like it's a great way, especially if you've wanted to get into fighting games, whether it's Street Fighter, whether it's another title. Like, I think this is a great experience for people that are like, especially with all the new fighting games coming out, and just kind of like a breath of fresh air in the FGC now. I think it's a great time to start getting into fighting games, you know, and then start kind of getting familiar with the community and how these games work, because there is like always a crossover with every fighting game, where there's like fundamentals are called fundamentals because they're pretty universal across all fighting games. So I think especially if you just want to learn fundamentals, you can carry what you learned from this tournament to another fighting game, another tournament. So I think it's a great thing for everybody, especially if you're new like me, you know, to Street Fighter, or like, you know, wanting to play other fighting games. Like, this is a great way to kind of get into it and then see what it's all about and why people love the FGC and why it's so hype and why tournaments are so awesome.
Yeah, and I'm going to be definitely like, you know, doing some new player helping, teaching and stuff during that time period too. So yeah, it'll be fun to watch and help everybody learn. That's my favorite thing about Street Fighter 6 so far, has been all the new players who have been like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I love when streamers ask me for help, because, you know, they ask me for help, then they stream it, then all their viewers come in and they're like, hey, I learned Street Fighter from X's stream, and like, I really like it now. So it's really nice to feel that crossover, you know?
Yeah.
It's a really cool experience. So hopefully you all enjoy all the action. Tune into all your favorite streamers during the week of the 6th, during the week of the 13th, and then tune into the stream November 18th, 4 p.m. Pacific. We'll see you gamers there. Catch you guys then.
Goodbye.
Time to work, time to work. When inhaled, coriamyrtin blocks the gamma-aminobutyric acid receptors in the central nervous system, causing spasmodic muscle contractions.
Master, it's a work of art! It's perfect!
What to do with you now? So, shall we put him out of his misery? For some experimentation. I bet poison would work wonders on you. I wouldn't move if I were you. Poison's on the menu. I'm finished with you. I have you. It's over. My arm's dead. Let's do now. Here, there, then here, and my magnum opus! Is my poison kicking in?
Street Fighter 6.